Hello everybody, here a new video from Renee from Spain, and in this video I want to show some important, at least for me, plus also for the scene, to be honest. Some of them are really important records, but I want to show some Dutch metal, heavy metal, power metal records from the 80s. And they're all like debut albums by this band, or they only released like one release and that was it. And I just want to show 5 because I want to talk about each band a little bit too, and I just don't want to go too fast. But somebody asked me to make this video, and the person asked me, I wrote it down somewhere. Oh yes, his name is JAY HOLLAND. JAY HOLLAND. He asked me to make a Dutch old school heavy power metal video, and I'm gonna show some that I really like. That's why. Plus, I made some notes too about each band, and I'm gonna definitely start with one of my favorite bands from Holland, from the 80s. They only released 2 albums, and they were from Rotterdam. Actually, that's where I was born too, in Rotterdam, in the south of Holland, in 1983. And this band was formed really by the drummer. And the drummer was Ernst van A. And this guy came from Highway Child. It was another band from the early 80s. And this band was formed, of course, in 83, like I said. And this was the debut album. And this is just an amazing release. I mean, it sounds really good too. Especially the B-side, I really like. And this is the debut album by HELLOISE. Check out Ready for the Night. I think it's a really good song. And actually, Ready for the Night reminds me a little bit of the band Van den Berg. And this is actually a Mexican edition. It came out under the Rocker series. Rocker. In Spain you had like Fama, but in Mexico you had Rocker. It's very cool. I have this release. I bought this on a record fair in the 90s, but this is a Mexican edition of the debut album from this Dutch band. Okay, now we go on with some less well known, because HELLOISE, they later split up in the 80s and they came back in 96 and they released more records. But those, I don't really have those. I don't have those, but I think they were more progressive. And this is more like heavy power metal. Also, sometimes they remind me of old Pretty Maids, HELLOISE. But now I'm going on with Defender. Not the German Defender. These are, of course, the Dutch Defender that released a single, and they released this EP. And this is, of course, great heavy power metal. It's like really good. And they were from Beverwijk, from the north of Holland, and they were formed around in 84, and they were active till 1990. There's also a compilation that I have on CD with the EP on it and some other stuff by Defender, like demo. And I especially like Deadly Peril. Deadly Peril is one of my favorite songs on here. It's very fast. And I also like the more epic In the Beginning. So you should check out Deadly Peril, very fast. And then In the Beginning, it's more epic. I mean, you should really check this out if you don't know them. This is especially very good for fans of Omen and Jack Panther, because they have this US style. Very cool band. I always thought it was a shame that the Dutch bands were not really singing in Dutch. Because I always liked the French band singing in French, the Hungarian band singing in Hungarian, the Spanish bands singing in Spanish. Of course, in Holland you had Vandalen, but Vandalen, they were singing in Dutch. But yes, all these bands, they could have been singing in Dutch because I'm Dutch, but it would have sounded very nice for me. Okay, another band, and this is well known, of course, also outside Holland. Vengeance. And check out the song Prisoners of the Night. That was actually a single. And Get Out. Also check out Get Out. And yes, those two are my favorite songs. And they were from Waalwijk. Waalwijk, North Brabant. You know, also of course from the Netherlands. Maybe I should take this off so you can see it better. It was their debut album from 1984. It came out on the CBS label. It's actually a very big label. That's where this was released, on that label. And the singer Leon Geovi, I never knew how to say that name. It's not really a Dutch name. He's a very good singer. And this reminds me very much of early 220 Volt, you know, the Scandinavian band. And also even the first albums by Europe, maybe, and Pretty Mates. You know, I'm not talking about the Final Countdown Europe. I'm talking about the debut album and the second album by Europe. It was more like heavy metal. Or Pretty Mates. Again, Pretty Mates. You know, like I already said, the older band too. And they were formed in 83. And this is a 9 out of 10, this album, in my opinion. Great release. Great debut album by Vengeance. And they made a lot more albums that are very cool. And of course, one thing I forgot, and this is very important, Arjen Lucassen. You know, he was first in Bodin. I don't know if you can see it here. Bodin. And then later, you know, of course, he was in Vengeance. And that guy later formed Arion. You know, Arion is still very active. He has a lot of different projects and bands. And he was the guitar player of Vengeance. These are also all Dutch bands I have here. I got Vortex, Gilgamesh, Angus, Together. Together is a great EP. A Picture, of course, a legendary Picture. Bodin. Okay. The next one is from Zaandam, North Holland. EXISES. EXISES? Maybe I'm spelling it wrong. And they were formed in 84. And they play heavy metal with some power too into it. And the best songs are Fear for the Night. And the epic influenced Some Sort of Freedom. I mean, those two songs are really songs you have to listen to. Fear for the Night and Some Sort of Freedom. And this was... they released one more album after this, but I never heard that album. That was like in the 90s already. But this came out under the label of Megaton Records. And Megaton Records, I wrote it down somewhere. No, I know of course, Megaton Records. Oh yes, they released stuff by Emerald and also by Angus, for example. And yes, those are the two things. This is actually a very, very good heavy power metal album. I mean, this one I'm not going to really talk about, but it's also from Holland, of course, this band. And it's Emerald with Iron on Iron. And this is a re-release under the label of Iron Glory Records from Germany. Check this band out. I really, really like this album. I would give it an 8 out of 10. And the last one I'm going to show, and this came out under the label of Flame Trader. And this was a label from Germany, actually. And they released stuff by Demon, Domain, Siren from the US. And yes, it was quite a good label. And I'm talking about Allied Forces. And this is the only record they ever released. And they're from, it came out in 86. They also had a song on the two songs, I think, on Dutch Steel. Dutch Steel in 1984 was a great compilation that I own on vinyl. I should have picked it out, but I thought, okay, I forgot about it. I was going to pick it out to show. And they had two songs, I think, 2 or 3 songs on. and on that compilation with some other bands. And then they released in '86, they released this. And this is great if you like European heavy metal, like the French band Fisk, for example, Lion Breed, you know, and stuff like that. Ostrogoth, I wrote it down actually, Ostrogoth. And this is, again, an 8 out of 10 in my opinion. Oh, I think the cats are destroying something there at the back. They're trying to get in somewhere and they're destroying some posters. That's why I'm gonna cut this off. I hope you like this video. I made this video for the guy Jay Holland. He asked me to make it. I hope you all liked it. And stay metal, everybody.